tired like all day. I didn't really even get out of bed until like 5:45 ish, which I think I may have slept most. Oh God, what? And I'm still yawning. If not all of the day, I get the feeling I slept just enough for it to like tire me out. I don't know if anyone out there has ever slept so much that you're still tired, but that's kind of where I think I'm at right now. But got up, went to work, worked, uh, had a pretty good day at work. If you've watched any of my other videos, then it probably comes across pretty clearly that I really do enjoy my job. Uh, Damn it. Um, yeah, went to work. It was kind of busy, not too bad. Uh, the Nintendo Switch, like how fast it keeps selling out, like that continues to surprise me. Um, Not that I think it's a bad system or anything. Of course, then again, I haven't really gotten my hands on it at all. But it doesn't seem like there's even too many games out right now for it, but everyone's going crazy getting it. Um, and I don't know, it's just really surprising to me. Uh, like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to mess around with it. Realistically, I probably won't until, well, unless I guess I buy one. Um, I'm kind of on the fence about that right now. Granted, as far as video game systems go, it's pretty cheap at $299.99. Um, but like I said, there really aren't that many games out for it, and it hasn't been out for very long. So even if I do end up getting it, I'm probably gonna wait and just kind of see if there's any issues with it or if there are any complaints that keep coming up. I have heard a couple so far, but nothing that makes me go like, no, I definitely do not want this. Uh, but there's definitely a couple things about it that I do really like. But like I said, I guess time will tell how good it is and if I actually do decide to eventually get my hands on one, if I can. Uh, they really do go like almost as fast as we get them in. But that also kind of seems to be a trend with Nintendo products. Uh, well, maybe not so much the Wii U, but I remember the Wii when it first came out, like it was impossible to find. And then when you could find the system, it was like the controllers that nobody could find because everybody wanted them. But yeah, it's a I don't know. It seems like a pretty cool system, but I guess we'll see. Um, One other thing, I'm not sure why exactly. Like, I didn't realize prank calls were still a thing that people did. Um, but I've like at work, I've had a couple of prank calls over the past couple of days, and it's I don't. I mean, I think the worst part about it, and this is probably going to sound really weird, but the worst part to me is the lack of creativity. And there's like no thought that goes into it. Like, one dude called and I said, "Oh, this is Mike, GameStop, blah blah blah," and he goes, "Oh yeah, what some of your friends gave me your Instagram," and in my head I was going, "Well, I don't really have like many friends down here," and also that's a little weird. Like if some of my friends gave out my Instagram and also where I work, like that by itself would weird me out a little bit, and I don't think that's something that any of my friends would do. Um, But it, like, right away, I was like, okay. Especially because there's me and another Mike that works there. So immediately I was like, nice try. So, yeah, they started talking about, like, oh, yeah, you got really good pictures, blah, blah, blah. And so I, you know, if you know me, you know that I had to mess with him a little bit. So I went, oh, yeah, I've been really trying to take some good stuff. Which one did you like? Did you like the one that I took last week where, I had, like, my hair all the way up and, it looked kind of crazy? And, the guy was like, oh, yeah. And I just went, really? Because I'm bald. And promptly hung up. So I don't think that went the way that they were hoping it would. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I seem to have a talent for messing with people because that same day, and again, I don't know why GameStop even, like, to me, if you're gonna try and prank call GameStop, make it about games. But this other dude calls in and I do the same thing, like, thank you for calling GameStop, where you can pre-order Injustice 2, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, hey, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes, just make sure you got the stuff ready. And I was like, oh, yeah, what stuff? Because, I mean, for all, like, at that point, I was pretty sure, prank. But it was also possible that someone had called to, like, have us hold something. So I already was in the mode of, like, prank calls, whatever. But I was like, oh, yeah, what stuff? And the guy goes like, man, I can't talk about that on cell phones. And I was just like, oh, okay, that stuff. Yeah. You want that Bakugan? You want that Persona? I just started naming, like, primarily, like, I was going with Japanese games. And just kind of messing with him. And the guy was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I got that stuff. We got all kinds of that stuff. The guy was like, okay, cool. I was like, I bet. I'll put those video games for you aside. The guy went, what? And hung up. Like, I don't know why. Like, what's even the point anymore? I mean, I guess you can only really prank call businesses because nobody really calls anyone anymore unless it's a bill collector. But it was just I don't know, kind of lack of creativity. But it also kind of brought me back to when I used to work for Flextronics. We were contracted in for Verizon Wireless, so for a while if you went into a Verizon Wireless store and you saw one of the techs, that was probably like someone that worked for Flextronics. But anyway, I helped everyone out. Like, if someone had a question about, like, technical stuff, they came to me. I was that guy. But there's Mittens. I'll be right back. Mittens was using his scratching post like a good kitty, but then he tried to jump on it and he's too fat, so it started to fall. So I will be right back. Oh, Mittens. How did that... Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. Poor Mittens. He's so fat. He's hiding under the table now in shame. Berg? Oh, God. Berg, please don't make the camera fall. Or the phone. Anyway, I was working at Verizon, And yeah, I also helped out with problem customers. And I have tons of stories from that. Um, Actually, next video I might share some, but this one, um, so someone came in and they were concerned about like their privacy, which I get it, but this person was convinced that, if I recall correctly, their ex was like changing their voicemail passwords and listening to their voicemails and reading their text messages and sending text messages as them and all kinds of other craziness. Um, this one though was way more persistent than the usual ones. Usually you can just say like, okay, well, I'll reset your voicemail password, blah blah blah, good to go, whatever. Um, this one though, uh, was convinced that on her dumb phone. This was like before everyone had like an Android or an iPhone. She had like an LG NV2. Like it was on the outside it's a regular phone, but then you flip it open and you can send text messages and everything. But it wasn't a smartphone at all by any stretch of the imagination. But she was convinced that a program had been installed on it that was doing all of this stuff. And just like the coworker of mine that was helping her, just kind of to ease her mind, we plugged it into one of our machines in the back to like try and do a firmware update, which would theoretically, if there was anything like that where it could take over the system, it would tell us or stop it, and no problems. That wasn't good enough. So I get called into the back, and dude's just like, I don't know what to tell her. Like, she's convinced that this is happening. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, if she's that concerned, have you told her, maybe she should contact the police? Like, yeah, because I remember something about a restraining order had been mentioned. But if she's that concerned, she may need to contact the police. So he was like, okay, cool. So he goes out, talks to her, mentions the cops. She said that when she calls the police, he takes over the phone and basically, like, prevents it from happening or something, or like it gets routed to him and he takes the call as a cop, or I don't even know. It was insanity. But he came in the back and was like, dude, she's not buying it. And I was like, okay. All right, do this. Just make up whatever you gotta. I was like, there's literally nothing we can do at this point. So just, like, because she was starting to get a little hysterical. And I don't mean funny. Well, it was funny to me, but. So, dude goes back out there and he starts telling her, like, oh, well, call from a secured phone line. Like, call from a payphone. This was back when payphones still were a thing. But he had to play into the crazy. And it was just funny to me. And afterwards, she was just like, I hate you for making me do that. I did not feel bad. But yeah, that was entertaining. I don't know how I got onto that story, but yeah. Anyone that works in retail, especially like IT or customer care, dude, if you ever want to hear some stuff, ask someone who's been like front lines, like retail, customer care, server, anything like that, anything customer facing. Ask them for some stories about some crazy customers. If they don't have any, they've never worked front lines. Because literally everyone who has had at least like 3 or 4 crazy customers that you will remember for life. Uh, One of my other favorites, which I don't know who watches these, but some of my coworkers from Comcast might. I'm going to share one more with you. Um, so, anyone that I worked with at Comcast, uh, I can almost guarantee that you were on my team and you probably heard about this lady. Uh, she she lived like right outside of this retirement community in like another retirement building. Normally, when we get called to go there for like a trouble call, it's something dumb. Like my personal favorites were like the TV wasn't on channel 3 or like input 1 or whatever. Or uh actually my favorites were when they would say like, "Oh, such and such isn't working." But it turned out that the box or the modem or whatever was plugged into an outlet that was governed by a light switch and they turned it off or someone turned it off, whatever. Loved those calls. But it was very rarely something difficult. So, this one was for internet, I believe. And so I, went there and uh, I'd gotten a heads up about a specific customer from one of my coworkers because he'd been in there. I can't remember what it was for. I think it was internet. But she started talking about Kaiser Permanente and how Kaiser Permanente, yes, the insurance company, was this gigantic evil corporation. So far, like, whatever. I know some people see some corporations as evil. Like, I don't even really get into it. I'm sure Kaiser's done some shady stuff in the past, but straight up, I think every single big corporation has. However, she started telling him about, like, all of this, like, human experimentation that they did, and how, like, they put a chip in her or something like that, and how they were monitoring everything, and how they even bought the house directly behind her apartment. Like when you looked out of her window, you would see a house. She was convinced that they bought that house, and that they were doing. I don't even remember all of this stuff, but then she showed him a video of a guy dying, and as I recall, it was like a guy that was hooked up to a bunch of machines, and you just like you saw him take his last breath. You saw that moment, and it got to him. Like it shook him up, and honestly, I don't blame him. Like I've seen gifs and videos of people dying, and it can mess with you. I mean, that's honestly one of the reasons why I have an insane amount of respect for like paramedics, firefighters, police, military. Because if I'm just watching a GIF and it can get in my head, then I can't even imagine what it's like to actually be there. But it got to him. It shook him up, and I don't blame him. Uh, but he got out of there as soon as he could. I would have too. But he told me about that, and like I think it was a couple weeks later. Uh, I was looking at my route and I saw that same address, and I remember he'd mentioned like she was on the third floor and mine was on the third floor, and I remember he had said her name and I couldn't remember it exactly, but like in my head I was looking at them, I was like, that sounds familiar. So I gave him a call. I was like, hey, was it this lady? And he goes, oh shit. And I was like, oh shit, it is. Um, and it was for the exact same thing. So, I go there. And it was for some stuff like, so with me, because I have a background in like electronics, telecommunications, applied sciences, basically computers. Um, if there was a repeat customer for internet being out or anything like that, especially if they thought it may have been a problem with the computer or the router or anything rather than with our service, usually I got sent. What flavor is that? Anyway, I'm gonna talk as I search, but oh, I remember, that was alien piss. Usually I got, that sounds really weird out of context. My bad. Just the flavor of this is called alien piss and it's lemonade flavor. I'm not going crazy. I didn't just think that I did like alien piss didn't just come into my head. Thank you, Ty. So, anyway, I'm just like, shit. So I call my supervisor, and he answers the phone in his usual manner. Again, if you've worked with me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't, he'll pick up the phone and go, "Hey, motherfucker." Yeah. Or, "What's up, white boy?" That was my nickname. Not, he wasn't being racist. That was my nickname. I was white boy. Because I was the only white person, like, in that, like, whole half of the county. But I tell him what's going on. He was just like, "Shit. Alright. Alright, do this. Go there, and if she does anything, like, basically, if she starts getting weird, just get the hell out of there." And I let my dispatcher know. I was like, "Look, this is what's happening. Like, I didn't know anything about her. And to be honest, I was slightly worried because, she obviously was mentally unstable. Like, she just showed a video like that out of nowhere to a tech. So I didn't know if I was potentially walking into, like, a dangerous situation. So I wanted to take as many precautions as I could. So, oh, God. So I walked in there, and she had, I remember all the curtains were drawn, and she had, like, curtains over even the vents because she was worried about cameras being placed there. So I walk in, and it's for, like, no internet, no dial tone on her phone, which with Comcast, they both go through the same machine. I don't know if y'all could hear that, but Jesus, it sounded like R2-D2 just got shot. Anyway, I walk in there and I'm just like, oh God, let's get this done. So I was like, okay, where's the modem? Like, internet and voice out. Like, I had run a diagnostic on my way and it showed that it was offline. So I just wanted to get in, get out, keep it moving, hopefully not see any people dying. So she goes, "Oh, it's right here." So I see it, and it's unplugged. Like, I don't mean everything was plugged in and, it looked normal. I mean, literally, like, it was sitting there with the power cord removed from it. I really just wanted to be like, well, there's your problem, and bounce. Unfortunately, I couldn't. So I plug it back in, and I'm waiting for it to boot up and everything, and she'd had it unplugged, I think, like, since my coworker had left, because it didn't even register itself, like, on our network. So, again, I went, shit. Because basically I had to wait for my dispatcher to like reprovision it and everything. And in the meantime, I'm just like, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, um, like just waiting for the crazy to start. And so sure enough, pretty quickly she starts talking about how Kaiser used to do experimentation, specifically on her, and how they're, the most evil corporation in the world, blah blah blah. I was used to hearing this about Comcast. Like people were like, Comcast is the devil. Okay, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of Comcast. I wouldn't say they're the devil. But moving on. So she starts giving me the same exact spiel about how they bought the house behind her, how it had like those giant satellite dishes that you sometimes see, like I guess if you're trying to get international channels. Um, but she said like they regularly altered them so that they would point directly at her. I don't know why. Uh, and how they hacked into her computer and everything. And she had a stack of like 6 laptops that apparently she just refused to use, and they were all pretty new. Not gonna lie, part of me wanted to be like, I can take them off your hands. But she goes, let me show you. And immediately, like, I was just like, so she opens up a Chromebook. And I was just like, okay. At this point, like, I was just waiting for the modem to reset so I knew that everything was, like, good to go. And she pulls it up, and my thinking initially was like, okay, well, it's a Chromebook, so, like, it's not a traditional OS. So I was like, she can't, like, log on to whatever website and show me something. So she's, like, messing around on her computer, and I'm just like, uh-huh. Uh-huh. Like, keep talking. And I see the modem reset, and I'm just like, oh, good. So I'm getting ready to leave. And she goes, oh, well, can I make sure everything's working? I was like, yeah, sure. A test call came through for her phone, so she was good to go on that. And she was like, oh, it's not working. Oh, wait, yeah, it is. And then I was like, okay, cool. And she goes, see? And she turns around the Chromebook, and I get a nice view of open heart surgery. I don't know if it was a heart transplant or whatever, but I just was like, okay, glad everything's working. I'm out. And I left, and yeah. Granted, it wasn't, like, as bad as, obviously, seeing someone die, but it's still like, why are you showing this to people? Like, for real. But I made sure that, like, she got notes put on her account about this so that way any tech that, like, went there would have a heads up. But yeah, that wasn't even the craziest thing that ever happened to me at Comcast. That just, it popped in my head, but yeah. See some messed up stuff. But I think that's just about it. Like I said, I didn't really get a chance to do anything today because I woke up so late, got up so late. Don't really know what's in store for me tonight. I'm probably gonna play some video games and just kind of take it easy. I don't want to move around too much. I'm on the 2nd floor and I don't want to, bother my neighbors. But I'll probably do some cleaning. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But hopefully this uploads nicely. I'm gonna check it out. Let me know in the comments what happens. And one more time, the biggest thing that would help me right now is if you share this with like friends, family, whatever. Doesn't even have to be friends or family, acquaintances. Print out the URL or something and like, I don't know, throw it into the street in Times Square. Don't actually no, do that. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I got for today. So until tomorrow, Moon Moon Mike out.